homeless black girl found the millionaire tied in forest and saved him. What he did next will shock why. The orange and golden light fell in long streaks across the ground, making everything look calm and peaceful. Birds chirped softly in the distance, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. But beneath the calmness of the forest, a sense of tension and fear was quietly hidden, waiting to be discovered. Among the tall grass and fallen leaves, a young girl moved carefully, her bare feet brushing against twigs and dirt. Her clothes were worn and torn, her hair tangled from days without proper care. She looked small and fragile to anyone who saw her, but her eyes told a story of strength, courage, and survival. At only 15, she had already learned how to take care of herself in a world that often seemed cold and unkind. People passed her on the streets without noticing, treating her like she was invisible. But she had learned to be alert, to watch carefully, and to trust her instincts because on the streets, danger could be around every corner. She had made the forest her temporary refuge. It was far from the noise of the city, and she could hide from those who would harm her. She often collected small scraps of food she found in trash bins near the forest edge, or sometimes people would leave food behind at the bus stops, which she gratefully took. It wasn't an easy life, but she had learned to find beauty in small things. The way the sunlight touched the leaves, the sound of birds, and even the quiet feeling of being alone in the woods. That evening, as she moved quietly between the trees, something unusual caught her attention. At first, she thought it was just a shadow or the movement of an animal, but then she heard a faint sound, a muffled cry for help. Her heart skipped a beat. She froze and listened carefully. The sound came again, more desperate this time. It was human. Someone was in trouble. Her first instinct was fear. She knew she was alone, unarmed, and small. But another feeling rushed through her, a deep sense that she couldn't ignore someone who needed help. She took a deep breath and followed the sound, moving slowly so as not to make a noise. Every step made her nervous, but she pushed forward, guided by the cries. After a few minutes, she came across a clearing. The golden light of the setting sun shone through the trees, revealing a man tied to a tree trunk. His hands were bound behind him and his legs were tied together. He looked weak, frightened, and badly hurt. His clothes were disheveled and dirt smudged his face. There was a fresh bruise forming on his forehead, and his eyes, wide with fear, locked onto hers as she approached. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The man stared at her, disbelief and hope mixing in his expression. The girl studied him carefully. She didn't know why he was here or who had done this, but she knew she had to act. Without thinking, she dropped to the ground and began to untie the ropes. Her fingers were small and the knots were tight, but she worked patiently, using all the strength she had. The man tried to help, but his hands were tied. He whispered words of thanks as she worked, his voice weak but full of gratitude. She kept her focus on the task, her mind racing with questions. Who had done this? Why was he in the forest, tied like this? But there was no time to think about those questions now. Saving him came first. The rope finally loosened enough for her to pull it apart. She helped him sit up, supporting him as he swayed. His body shook from pain and shock, and she could feel how weak he was. She gave him a small bottle of water she had carried with her, a rare treasure she kept for emergencies. He drank slowly, still staring at her with wide, surprised eyes. You saved me," he said, his voice trembling. "I don't know how to thank you." She smiled faintly, brushing the dirt from her hands. "You have to promise me something first," she said softly. "You have to get out of here safely. You can thank me later. Right now, just get up." He nodded, still amazed at her bravery. He could not believe someone so young, so small, and so alone could have the courage to save him. Many people in his world, the world of wealth and influence, would have passed by, assuming someone else would help. But she didn't wait. She acted without thinking of herself, and it made him see her in a completely new light. The girl helped him to his feet. His legs wobbled and she steadied him, her hands firm but gentle. They started walking slowly toward the edge of the forest, where the city lights began to appear in the distance. Each step was careful, as she led him through narrow paths and hidden trails she had memorized over months of wandering these woods. She knew where it was safe and where it was. She knew which areas were dangerous after dark, and she guided him away from them, trusting her instincts. As they walked, the man kept glancing at her, still unable to speak words of proper thanks. He tried to ask questions, but she simply shook her head. "Not now," she said. "We need to get out first. Then we can talk." Her mind, though tired and hungry, was alert. She scanned the area for any signs of danger. Even though she had no weapons, she felt a strength inside her, a determination to see him safe. She had faced hunger, cold nights, and cruelty from strangers, but helping someone in real danger was different. It awakened a courage in her that she had never realized she had. Finally, they reached a small clearing at the edge of the forest. The city lights twinkled in the distance, and she could see a familiar street where she often found food or shelter. The man's relief was visible. His body relaxed slightly, and he leaned on her for support. She helped him reach a nearby road where a few people were still passing by. She made sure he was steady enough to get help and gave him instructions on which way to go to find safety. Before he stepped toward the safety of the city streets, he turned to her again, his eyes full of emotion. "I don't know what I would have done without you," he said. You are incredible." "Who are you?" She shrugged, a faint smile on her lips. "Just someone trying to survive," she replied softly. "But you're safe now. That's what matters." For a brief moment, they simply looked at each other. The golden light of the setting sun reflected off his face, and she realized how different their worlds were. He had wealth, influence, and security. She had none of those things, yet she had the courage he could never have imagined. It was a strange, beautiful, and powerful moment. Two strangers from completely different lives connected by an act of bravery and compassion. As he walked toward help, he glanced back one last time. Her figure, small and strong, stood silhouetted against the glowing light of the forest. He could not stop thinking about her courage and determination. This girl, homeless and overlooked by society, had saved his life. And he knew deep down that he could never forget her. The girl watched him go, feeling a strange mix of pride, relief, and hope. She returned to her small makeshift shelter in the woods, tired but satisfied. That evening she lay under the stars, thinking about what had happened. She had always believed she was invisible to the world, but tonight she had made a difference. She had saved someone's life. And for the first time in a long time, she felt that maybe, just maybe, the world could be different for her too. Little did she know, this single act of bravery would change not only his life but her own, in ways she could never imagine. The forest had witnessed a miracle that day, a young girl's courage shining brighter than the fears that had once held her back. After the young girl had helped the man to the edge of the forest, she watched as he walked toward the faint lights of the city streets. His steps were unsteady at first, but each one carried a sense of relief and determination. She could see him pause every few steps, looking back toward her, as if trying to understand how someone so small, so young, could have saved a life as important as his. The girl lingered for a moment, letting herself breathe. The forest was quiet again, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just the calm after the storm. It was a calm that carried a promise that something in her life might finally change. She had never thought much about the future. Most days her focus was on surviving today, getting a little food, finding a safe place to sleep, and staying alive. But after tonight, something inside her shifted. She had made a difference. She had mattered. Meanwhile, the man, who was a millionaire named David, stumbled toward the nearest street with the girl's guidance still fresh in his mind. Each step away from the forest brought him closer to safety, but his mind was far from calm. He couldn't stop thinking about the girl who had saved him. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Her hands were small and dirty, yet they were strong enough to untie thick ropes. Her eyes were filled with fear and determination at the same time. There was courage in her that he could not understand, a kind of bravery that was rare in his world of comfort and luxury. As he reached a nearby cafe where a few late customers lingered, he went inside to make a call. He needed to contact someone who could help him immediately. The police, a private security team, anyone who could ensure that the people who had left him tied up were found. While waiting for assistance, he could not stop thinking about the girl. He wanted to find her again to thank her properly, but he also knew she might not want attention. People like her often avoided the spotlight, preferring to stay invisible to the world. Hours passed, and the police took statements. David described everything: how he had been tied up in the forest, how he had managed to survive, and most importantly, how a young girl had found him and freed him. The officers listened carefully, but their eyes widened when he mentioned the girl. They had expected a passerby, maybe a hiker or a jogger, but a homeless child. That was unexpected. David knew he had to find her again. He wanted to help her, not out of obligation, but because he could see her potential. There was something special about her, a spark that the world had not yet recognized. He knew that wealth and security were meaningless without people like her in the world, people who had courage, kindness, and strength. Meanwhile, the girl returned to her makeshift shelter, which was little more than a pile of blankets under an old, abandoned shed near the forest. She was tired, her body aching from the effort, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. She thought about the man she had saved, about his words of gratitude, and about the strange bond that had formed between them in just a few moments. It was a bond neither of them could explain, but both of them felt it deeply. The next morning, David used his resources to search for her. He spoke with people who might have seen a young girl near the forest the previous night. He left messages at shelters, asking if anyone knew her. He even hired someone to check the streets near the forest. Every lead he followed brought him closer to her, but the city was large, and finding one homeless girl was not easy. Despite the difficulty, David refused to give up. He remembered the courage in her eyes, the determination in her movements, and the selflessness she had shown. He felt a responsibility to her, even though they had only met briefly. He wanted to make sure that her bravery did not go unnoticed, that she received the help she deserved. For the girl, life went on as usual. She found food wherever she could, moved from place to place to avoid danger, and tried to stay warm at night. But now, there was a difference. She felt a sense of possibility she had never felt before. Something inside her had changed, and she carried a quiet confidence that she had not known before. She had faced fear and danger, and she had won. That realization gave her a strength she could draw on, even on the hardest days. A few days later, David finally found her. He approached her carefully, not wanting to scare her but wanting to make his intentions clear. He explained who he was, what had happened after she had saved him, and why he had come to find her. The girl listened quietly, her eyes wary at first. She had learned to be cautious with strangers, even those who seemed kind. But there was something in his voice, something genuine and honest, that made her listen. He offered her food and clothing first, simple things that she had not had in a long time. Then he offered her a place to stay, a safe place where she would not have to worry about the dangers of the streets. She hesitated. She had heard promises before, promises that were never kept. But David was patient. He did not push her. He simply waited, showing her that he would not leave her side, that he would respect her choices. Over time, she began to trust him. She accepted the food and clothing, and slowly she began to understand that this man was different. He did not see her as invisible or worthless. He saw her courage, her intelligence, and her heart, and he wanted to help her, not just with material things but with her future. David began to introduce her to new experiences. He took her to places she had never seen, showed her things that most children only dreamed about, and treated her with respect and care. But more than anything, he listened. He listened to her stories, her fears, her hopes, and her dreams. He never judged her, never assumed she was less than anyone else. And in doing so, he gave her something more valuable than money or food. He gave her dignity, respect, and hope. The girl started to realize that her life could be different. She could have opportunities she had never imagined. She could learn, grow, and thrive in a world that had always seemed hostile. And yet, she never forgot where she came from: the streets, the forest, the nights spent alone and afraid. Those experiences had shaped her, given her strength and resilience. And now, with David's help, she could use that strength to build a better future. David, for his part, could not stop thinking about her. Her bravery, her kindness, and her determination had left a lasting impression on him. He realized that true wealth was not measured in money or possessions, but in the people who touched your life and changed it forever. And she had done exactly that. Their relationship grew slowly, based on trust and mutual respect. David never treated her as a charity case. He treated her as a person, a young girl with immense potential. And she responded by showing him that she was more than just a survivor. She was strong, smart, and capable of incredible things. As days turned into weeks, the girl began to see the world differently. She noticed kindness in unexpected places, learned to trust people again, and allowed herself to dream of a life beyond survival. She started to imagine going to school, making friends, and having a place to call home. These thoughts were new, exciting, and sometimes frightening, but she welcomed them. She knew that change was possible, that her life could be transformed by courage, kindness, and a single act of bravery. David, too, changed in ways he had not expected. He became more aware of the struggles of those less fortunate, more compassionate, and more committed to making a difference. The girl's bravery had shown him a world he had never truly seen, and he was determined to use his resources to help, to give back, and to honor the courage she had shown him. And so, a bond formed between them, strong and unbreakable, based on trust, respect, and the shared experience of survival. They had come from completely different worlds, yet their lives were now intertwined in a way that would change both of them forever. Little did they know, this was only the beginning. The challenges they would face, the lessons they would learn, and the impact they would have on each other's lives would be greater than either could imagine. But for now, they simply focused on the present, on trust, friendship, and the quiet understanding that courage and kindness could overcome even the darkest circumstances. The girl had saved his life once, and in doing so, she had opened a door to a new life for herself. The millionaire had found more than just safety. He had discovered hope, humanity, and a young girl whose bravery could inspire the world. And as they faced the future together, both of them understood one simple truth. Sometimes, the most unlikely people can make the biggest difference. Days turned into weeks, and the girl's life began to change in ways she could never have imagined. The streets and forests that had once been her home were now behind her, replaced by a small, warm room provided by David, the millionaire she had saved. The walls were painted a soft, calming color, and a comfortable bed awaited her each night. For the first time, she didn't have to worry about where she would sleep or how she would stay warm. She could simply rest, and it felt strange, almost unreal. Even with this newfound comfort, the girl remained cautious. Trusting people had never come easily to her. She had lived a life where promises were often broken, where strangers could be dangerous, and where survival depended on keeping her guard up. But David was different. He had not only shown her kindness but also respected her space and her choices. He never forced her to do anything, never demanded her gratitude, and never treated her as less than herself. David, too, was learning from her. Each day spent together revealed more of her intelligence, her resilience, and her incredible insight into the world around her. She had survived challenges that most adults could not imagine, and she carried those experiences with her as quiet wisdom. She noticed details others overlooked, understood people's intentions quickly, and faced difficulties with a calm determination that was inspiring. One afternoon, David decided it was time to help her take the next step. He knew she had missed out on many opportunities for education, and he wanted her to learn and grow, not just survive. He gently asked her if she would like to attend school or take lessons in subjects that interested her. At first, she hesitated. School had always seemed like a distant, impossible dream. The idea of sitting in a classroom, learning from teachers, and being around other children was both exciting and frightening. David understood her hesitation. He did not push her. Instead, he explained that learning could open doors, give her confidence, and allow her to shape her own future. He promised to be there every step of the way, supporting her, guiding her, and helping her navigate the challenges she might face. Slowly, she began to consider the idea. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life where knowledge and education could empower her, where her past struggles would not define her future. As she began to attend classes and lessons, she discovered a natural curiosity for learning. Subjects that had once seemed impossible now felt exciting. Reading, writing, mathematics, and even history became adventures in themselves. She soaked up information like a sponge, asking questions, exploring ideas, and challenging herself to understand more. David encouraged her every step of the way, celebrating her successes and reassuring her when she faced difficulties. But the journey was not without challenges. She occasionally felt overwhelmed by the new environment, unsure of how to fit in with children who had grown up with stability and opportunities she had never known. There were moments of self-doubt when she questioned whether she truly belonged or could succeed. David remained patient, reminding her that her past did not limit her potential and that she had already overcome far greater challenges than these. One day, during a break from lessons, David suggested they take a walk in the city. He wanted her to experience the world outside the shelter and the classroom, to see the beauty and opportunities that existed around her. As they walked through busy streets filled with people, shops, and parks, she noticed things she had never seen before. Colorful buildings, sparkling fountains, children laughing freely, and families enjoying time together. It was a world she had always imagined from a distance but had never truly experienced. During their walk, they encountered people from all walks of life. David introduced her to friends and colleagues, always treating her with respect and encouraging her to engage and speak confidently. At first, she was shy, hesitant to open up, but gradually she began to see herself as someone capable and worthy of attention and respect. Each interaction, no matter how small, strengthened her self-esteem and her belief in her own potential. David also began teaching her practical life skills. He showed her how to manage money, plan her day, and communicate effectively with others. She learned how to express her thoughts clearly, make decisions with confidence, and approach challenges with a problem-solving mindset. These lessons, combined with her natural intelligence and resilience, transformed her gradually but profoundly. One afternoon, as they sat together in a quiet park, David shared a personal story from his own life. He spoke about the challenges he had faced, the mistakes he had made, and the lessons he had learned. The girl listened intently, realizing that even someone as wealthy and successful as David had experienced difficulties and setbacks. It was a powerful reminder that life was a journey, and everyone, regardless of their circumstances, had to navigate challenges and grow from them. Their bond deepened with each passing day. David respected her independence, but he also provided guidance and protection. The girl began to trust him fully, confiding in him about her past, her fears, and her hopes for the future. She spoke of her life on the streets, the nights spent alone and afraid, and the ways she had learned to survive. David listened without judgment, offering support and understanding. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen and valued. One evening, David suggested a new challenge, something that would test her courage and problem-solving skills, just as she had tested her own bravery in the forest. He presented a situation that required her to use her street smarts and quick thinking. There had been rumors of a small group of people involved in illegal activities near her old part of the city. David explained that, while he had resources to handle the situation, her unique knowledge of the streets and her instincts could help them prevent harm to others. The girl was nervous but intrigued. She agreed to help, understanding that this was a way to use her skills for something meaningful. Together, they planned carefully, ensuring safety and strategy were prioritized. She guided David through hidden paths, sharing her knowledge of the area, identifying safe spots and pointing out potential risks. Her instincts, honed from years of survival, proved invaluable. During the process, the girl showed remarkable courage and intelligence. She remained calm under pressure, made quick decisions, and navigated challenges that might have overwhelmed anyone else. David watched in awe, realizing that her bravery in the forest was only a glimpse of her true potential. She had grown, not only in confidence but also in skill and wisdom. After successfully handling the situation, David praised her efforts. He emphasized that her actions had made a real difference, that her intelligence and courage had prevented potential harm, and that she should be proud of herself. The girl felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had not only survived her past but was now using her experiences to help others. It was a turning point, a moment when she truly recognized her own strength. As the days passed, the girl continued to flourish. She attended school regularly, learned practical skills, and began to dream about the future. She thought about the career she might pursue, the places she could go, and the people she could help. For the first time, her life was filled with possibilities rather than limitations. David, meanwhile, became a mentor and guide, offering support, encouragement, and opportunities. He introduced her to experiences that broadened her perspective, showed her ways to grow her skills, and celebrated her successes. Their relationship was built on mutual respect and trust, creating a foundation that would last a lifetime. Through this journey, the girl discovered something even more profound, that courage, kindness, and determination could transform not only one's own life, but the lives of others as well. She had saved David's life in the forest, and now he was helping her create a future she had never imagined. Their bond was a testament to the power of human connection, trust, and compassion. By the end of part 3, the girl had grown in confidence, intelligence, and resilience. She had faced new challenges, learned to trust, and discovered that her life could be filled with opportunity and hope. David had witnessed her strength and courage firsthand and had dedicated himself to supporting her journey. Together, they were building a future that neither could have imagined alone, a future shaped by bravery, kindness, and the belief that anyone, no matter their circumstances, could rise above challenges and achieve greatness. Time passed quietly, but change was happening every single day. The girl who once slept under broken shelters and walked through forests alone was no longer just surviving. She was living. Each morning, she woke up with purpose. She studied, learned new skills, and slowly built confidence in herself. The fear that once followed her everywhere began to fade, replaced by belief and strength. David watched this transformation with deep emotion. He had seen success in business, power in money, and influence in society, but nothing compared to watching a life rebuild itself from nothing. The girl's determination reminded him of something he had lost long ago, the belief that people could rise purely through courage and effort. One evening, David invited her to sit with him in the living room. The lights were soft, and the atmosphere felt calm. She noticed that he looked serious but also thoughtful. "There is something important I want to talk to you about," he said gently. She sat quietly, listening. Over time, she had learned that when David spoke like this, it meant he was being honest and careful. "You saved my life," he continued. "Not just in the forest, but after that too. You changed the way I see the world, and I believe it's time for others to see what I see in you." She looked at him, unsure what he meant. David explained that he had started a foundation, a program designed to help children who had grown up without safety, education, or support. But this foundation was different. It was not about charity alone. It was about giving people tools, trust, and belief in themselves. "And I want you to be the heart of it," he said. She froze. "Me?" she asked softly. "Yes," David replied. "Your story, your strength, your honesty, it can inspire others. Not as someone who was helped, but as someone who rose." She felt overwhelmed. Part of her still carried the old fear, the voice that said she was not enough. But another part of her, stronger now, knew she had earned this moment. Weeks later, the foundation officially opened. David did something no one expected. Instead of putting his own name at the front, he placed hers beside it. He wanted the world to know that courage can come from the most unexpected places. At the opening event, people from many backgrounds gathered. Business leaders, teachers, community workers, and families filled the hall. When the girl walked onto the stage, she felt nervous, but she stood tall. She spoke in simple words. She talked about hunger, fear, and loneliness. She talked about the forest, about choosing to help someone even when she had nothing. And she talked about hope, how one kind decision can change everything. There was silence when she finished. Then applause filled the room. Some people wiped tears from their eyes. Others stood up. David watched from the side, deeply moved. That moment confirmed what he already knew. Helping her was not the shocking thing. Believing in her had changed both of them. News of the foundation spread quickly. But unlike other stories, this one was not about money. It was about humanity. People were inspired by her strength and honesty. Donations came in, volunteers joined, and children who once felt invisible began to receive help. The girl became a mentor. She spent time listening to others, encouraging them, and reminding them that their past did not define their future. She never forgot where she came from. She returned to the forest once, standing quietly among the trees. It no longer felt like a place of fear. It felt like the beginning. David's life changed too. He reduced his business commitments and focused more on the foundation. For the first time, his success felt meaningful. He realized that true wealth was not measured by numbers, but by lives changed. One afternoon, as they sat together watching children play in the foundation center, the girl turned to him. "You didn't just help me," she said. "You trusted me." David smiled. "And you reminded me what courage looks like." Years later, her story was shared around the world, not as a tale of pity but of power. She grew into a confident young woman, educated, respected, and determined. She continued leading the foundation, helping thousands find opportunity and hope. And whenever people asked David what the most shocking thing he ever did was, he never mentioned money. He said, "I chose to believe in a girl the world ignored, and she changed everything." The forest remained silent, but its story lived on, carried by a girl who proved that even from the darkest places, light can rise.